So not only do we need to be re-educated ourselves as clients and patients, but the medical community and on the broad spectrum definitely needs to. I mean, if you're going to your doctor and they're not like, what are you eating? How are you sleeping? These kinds of things, then something is missing because they do play a huge role.
But I do feel like that's exactly the questions that aren't always asked. And it's interesting because they are, as you say, such strong indicators. So, where do you think this education is almost coming from? Is it from, I mean, I know quite a limited amount on the pharmaceutical companies and their marketing strategy, but what I do know is pretty terrifying that there's so many causes, whether they're manufactured or not. And then all of these solutions, which obviously is making this pharmaceutical company a lot of money, and the cycle is we are the consumer. And then you can go into so many different elements of conspiracy theories and everything, which we don't need to do. But as someone who is an expert in your industry, can you talk me through a little bit of navigating that and also your views on that and your research as an expert voice in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I read studies. Usually Mondays, I'm gonna get some notifications. I read a lot of studies, and I was reading the study this morning, and you get to the bottom, and there's disclosures about, well, there's this study, but this person is receiving funding from such and such, whether it's a food conglomerate or a pharmaceutical company or something like that. Those disclosures are in there. So I think as one week as consumers need to learn to read between the lines a little better as well and not just take everything at face value. So, really looking at, well, this study says, but this person got this funding from this company. So being able to break that down is incredibly important. I think really when you're going into talk about your health is having the ability to stand up for ourselves. So I think a lot of people don't advocate for themselves either. And I think that's incredibly important because we're just like, oh, you've had this training. Yes, we're just going to take that pill. Looking at the medications, reading the labels, doing a little bit more research than just taking everything at face value, I think would make a big difference too. So, you know, in the United States, the theory is, and I know that a lot of the medical community gets, an hour of nutrition training. So, you can't really go to your GP and say, "Hey, I think these things are bothering me," because they don't really understand that in-depth concept of the nutrition and how it's impacting the body. And we can't fault them for that. It's just how they were trained. So I really, looking at it as a whole is we as consumers also need to ask more questions and read between the lines.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the second kind of side of that is, I mean, the example you gave, you were reading a research paper, you've read all of it, you've understood it, you've got to the bottom, and then you see there's an affiliation. A lot of people may read a shortened version or some cliff notes, or they may read like an extract they've seen on social media, or they may just listen to someone talking about something else about that. And there's no understanding of the affiliation that has, which I think demonstrates the point of how terrifying it can be because you don't know what point of view it's coming from. You don't know what agenda this person has, this company has, what affiliation they have. And that's when it really becomes quite a maze, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's tricky and it's not always straightforward and easy for people to find the info and the data that they need. And a lot of times people don't even have an idea where to look. They may Google, but they don't really have a solid understanding of, well, how do I research this?
Yeah. So tell us, what should we be looking for? A rundown on the basics of what you would identify as something to avoid or be aware of.
Yeah, I think really finding someone who has an understanding, who can help you better understand your diet, your nutrition, your lifestyle, how they are impacting your body, both as a patient and as a client. Really looking at how you can ask more questions. I mean, yes, you can Google, but really make sure that you're reading the data in its entirety. Just like you said, don't read, a short paragraph and then be like, okay, because you may be missing information. So I work with a lot of children who have neurological disorders, tic disorders, and Tourette's. And so many parents come to us on medication. Well, what parents don't know about the medication is one, we have solid studies that say medications prescribed for these things do not cure them and rarely do they reduce symptoms more than 50%. And many of them, the major side effect is uncontrollable body movements. So the parents are not reading the data and getting into the details saying, oh, this medication might cause uncontrollable body movements on a kid who has uncontrollable body movements. So it's really about you as the consumer, and the way that you are taking control of your health is reading into that data more.
Can you give me, Piper, a little bit of background on why you are so interested in health, holistic health, and not only interested, but a qualified expert now in it as well? It would be great to hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So my son, he will be 20 this year, but when he was 6, so over 13 years ago, he was diagnosed with a transient neurological tic. It's like Tourette's. So one morning we woke up to uncontrollable body movements. We were terrified. I mean, my husband was taking video, we were making pediatrician appointments. We were really scared what was happening with my son. And typically the modern approach is to say, "Oh, it's a tic disorder, just ignore it, they'll grow out of it," instead of really figuring out what's at the root. So, we went to doctor after doctor, we tried all the medications. This is before I had done all the research that I knew all of these things. So, I started going down the research rabbit hole and really educating myself because I knew in my mama soul, I knew something was going on and something was getting missed. I'm like, "What is it? I'm gonna find it." So after some really atrocious doctor's appointments, I went back to school to relearn everything I thought I knew about health and wellness, earned my PhD. I have earned a ton of other certifications. I'm board certified in natural medicine, but really looking at that holistic, natural approach to health and what it really entails. And so now my son he's going to be 20. He just started a job in June as a firefighter. He doesn't experience symptoms anymore of uncontrollable body movements. And so really it was I started this to help him, and when people saw his success, I started helping other people, and now we help clients all over the world.